agencies to protect the whistleblowers. The EFCC boss tasked lawyers not to indulge in activities that encourage people to commit crimes, while tasking them not to protect suspected criminals, as they should bring any person who has committed financial crimes to court. Today we'll be looking at our whistleblower policy here in Nigeria and what exactly the problem is with it, why it's not been able to work so far. There's been a bit of strengthening of the whistleblower policy by different presidents in the years, but which one has stuck and which one has made the most effect in the country? We'll be looking at that in a moment. Meanwhile, we're live on YouTube. You can join us on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. We're live on YouTube and we're also live on WhatsApp. You can send us a WhatsApp message or give us a call on the same number, 0808 312 8618. 0808 312 8618 is the number to call or send a WhatsApp message to. All right. Good morning, Mr. Larry. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Jason. And good morning, Abuja. I hope we're good today.
Yes, we're good. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Larry, let's look at the whistleblower policy. First of all, what's your general view of the whistleblower policy as it is in Nigeria?
I think, first of all, that is a good thing that we actually decided to go the way of encouraging people to expose corruption. Whistleblowing is basically about exposing corruption or other acts that will cause losses to the government. And it's a very good idea, especially considering how much money has been recovered since the policy was instituted. So it's a good thing. But of course, if we want to go the way of whistleblowing, we should also look at other countries that have done it, especially India, for instance. We should have a framework. You don't just have a policy that is not robust and that doesn't necessarily protect people who may engage in whistleblowing and all of that. But it's a good idea. In fact, if it is encouraged and whistleblowers are properly protected, it will help Nigeria because there is no crime that is actually totally hidden. If people have incentive to expose crime, especially when they will get rewarded for it, a lot of people will expose a lot of crimes. But we should also look at the fact that we got some discouraging information. I remember that there was a cache of $100 million or something that was discovered, and then eventually the court said it was gifts. The court accepted the fact that that much cash was supposed to be gifts, and you're talking of a country that has a code of conduct for public servants. So I couldn't reconcile such cash gifts with the code of conduct provisions. So we need to be serious about whistleblowing policy, and it's something that we shouldn't just be doing at the national level. We should encourage every state to have whistleblowing laws. So I think it's a good development. If the National Assembly take it seriously, it's wonderful. But let's wait and see, because I noticed that they're more interested in promoting bills that will basically punish the ordinary person. But they are not really very interested in the bills that will create sanity in our polity and then manage corruption. So it's a good thing, but let's see if the National Assembly rise up to the occasion.
All right, looking at the whistleblowing policy here in Nigeria, right? What's the legal framework around it? Is there a comprehensive whistleblowing legislation that protects, whistleblowers in Nigeria? Do we have laws currently?
We don't have any whistleblowing legal framework. That is why the boss of the FCC actually made a call for National Assembly to give us that framework. Because if you have a national legislation on whistleblowing, that legislation should also provide for protection of whistleblowers, among other things. But we don't have any specific law at all that seeks to actually promote whistleblowing and then protect whistleblowers. As a matter of fact, I'm aware that one whistleblower was terribly punished at one federal university because he informed on a professor who at that time was a dean, and the man dealt with him. It took years before we intervened, and then this man was rescued. This guy graduated alongside his colleagues. He was working with school certificate, and then he graduated. And for almost 10 years, he was not converted. And the man told him to his face that he was going to pay for informing on him. And this man was still left in the university. Because for me, if we have a whistleblowing policy, it shouldn't just be about protecting the whistleblower, recovering money. It should also be about punishing the person. We should stop this attitude of recover money. We should punish people, because if a person steals our money and we catch the person should pay the price of committing a crime. When you do the crime, you do the time. The fact that we recover the money is secondary. The person should be punished. The law doesn't say that if you steal and you are caught, you will recover the item stolen and you go home. But that appears to be the case very often in Nigeria, even in ordinary criminal matters, not just in political cases. So I think we need to get to that point where we are serious with getting people to understand that crime has consequences. That's not the case in Nigeria. A lot of people do things that, in fact, if you can get away with it, then you can go ahead and do it. And very often people do get away with crime in Nigeria.
Okay. So let's look at the reporting mechanisms, right? Because there has to be loopholes in those places. Because if I come to you as a whistleblower and I have information on my boss, I don't expect you to tell my boss, or I don't expect the information to get to my boss about it. There's supposed to be a bit of protection, right? So the reporting channels, there has to be a problem with the reporting channels. So what are the internal reporting channels that we have in the country at the moment?
Well, if you look at the reports that the EFCC released, you find out that people actually messages, and then different kinds of messages, email, text message, and all of that, and then also letters, phone calls also. The most important thing is that these calls can also be anonymous, but even when they're not anonymous, the person who gave the information should be protected, and that protection should be legal. As it is now, it's a policy. But the point is, when we have a legal framework with detailed provisions in the law, then people have more confidence to come out and blow the whistle. Because this is Nigeria. Sometimes you may blow the whistle, and then somehow the person who is supposed to be the victim will find out who exactly blew the whistle. But if we have laws that strengthen the process, apart from the fact that this whistleblower may not be found out, even if the person is finally somehow revealed or discovered, the person should have a measure of protection, legally, security-wise, and all that. So a framework.
Okay, looking at the whistleblower protection bill, right? Various attempts have been made to create the whistleblower legislation, including the introduction of the whistleblower protection bill in 2019. A notable aspect of that bill is its expansion of coverage beyond 2016 stopgap policy. While the policy primarily focused on disclosures related to mismanagement of public funds and assets, the 2019 bill encompassed improper conduct by individuals, public officials. You're looking at private and public entities and all of that. There were protections that were offered in that protection bill. Several crucial protections for whistleblowers. You're looking at prevent victimization by employers or fellow employees. I don't know what could be done in that aspect, where you have an individual who finally, gets courage to speak about a particular leader, and then the fellow employees are the ones castigating that individual.
We have a culture of corruption in Nigeria. It's sad and unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And when people engage in whistleblowing, the person is regarded as an informant, a snitch. There are a lot of derogatory names that the person very often gets labeled with. And of course, sometimes colleagues will not like the person for the main reason that they may also be dipping their hands in the pot, which means that if you have a whistleblower and the person is blowing the whistle, the person may blow the whistle on you too. So a person who's a whistleblower is like a kind of a police officer. People don't like police officers, generally speaking, apart from the fact that Nigerians seem to have issues with their own officers. That is beyond the general dislike. Because the job of a police officer is to catch you when you do crime. And people don't want to be arrested. People don't want to pay for their crimes. So in a similar vein, workers generally will not like whistleblowers because the whistleblower basically exposes them. And they don't want to be exposed. Excuse me, they don't want to be exposed. So that is the problem we have. But if you have legal framework of protection, and that legal framework could also include provision to transfer the person and give the person a similar position in other agencies or ministries that is commensurate with the one the person was enjoying. So protection doesn't mean necessarily give the person security to follow him around or protect him from being victimized inside that same organization. The person could be moved to another organization and given a similar rank and position so that the person will get into a new environment without even necessarily informing their colleagues where he has been moved to. The person can be moved even out of location. And then if it's a serious matter, out of location movement should be funded by the government. This is what's supposed to be part of a comprehensive protection plan. But some of these things should be done on the basis of need. So it's not every time you blow a whistle, you are moved to another place necessarily. No. Sometimes you may even blow the whistle and the people will not know who did. So I think it's important that we get to that point where we appreciate that it will help us in the fight against corruption. But sometimes I even want to ask myself, do we really want to fight corruption in Nigeria? Do we have the political will to fight corruption? I don't think we do. Not at this time.
I was getting there because where you have a situation where someone has been, a whistle has been blown on a particular individual, how come we are focusing on the whistleblower instead of the person who committed the crime? Yeah, it's baffling.
But that's what I was just saying, that the only thing we should do is to focus on putting the person who committed the crime behind bars, recovering our money. The only time we begin to talk about the whistleblower is if the whistleblower is under threat. But the law should be made to provide for the whistleblower's protection. That is why we are talking about the whistleblower. We need the whistleblower to expose these things. You know, when a person wants to steal money in a ministry, this person needs the assistance of civil servants. The file is pushed from one desk to another. The people see the fire, even when they don't treat it. That is the power of whistleblowing. So a person who is not happy that we are being fleeced in that manner can blow the whistle. And will benefit from such policies if it's actually encouraged and properly implemented. And then we now go to the flip side to strengthen our anti-corruption laws. That is, there is nothing wrong with saying, "Oh, let us protect whistleblowers. You know, let us do this thing right." But there is something wrong with having very soft laws. You know, this kind of slap on the wrist laws. So when you catch someone, there is no naming and shaming, there is no consequence. For instance, EFCC under Ibrahim Magu announced that they recovered more than 500 million from whistleblowing, more than 53 million US dollars, and all of that. I think Great Britain pounds, more than 21 million pounds. And they didn't tell us who they recovered this money from. Clearly, what I mean is we shouldn't just tell, we should publicize. It's called naming and shaming. It should be part of the whistleblowing policy. It should be part of the anti-corruption fight. In fact, we should have a hall of mischief in Nigeria for corruption. So when a person is actually indicted and convicted of corruption, we're going to put the person in the hall of mischief, not hall of fame. So we need to shame these people so that even children will tell their parents, please, Daddy, don't do this. It's not good for our name. It's not good for us. Unfortunately, we're not interested in that because the same people who were asking to give us these laws are the same people who steal the money. It is the politicians who steal or facilitate the stealing of the money. So we need to do more to empower the legislators who have the moral courage to do what is right, to push for these bills, and then to see that the bills are not just paper tigers. Because you can have a bill that is just there, but it is not strong enough. It has loopholes all over the place. You just did it for the purpose of giving us a bill. It's just like now, we don't have any, like, if you look at our anti-corruption fight, you look at ICPC, you look at EFCC, the gap is so much. The punishment is so little. The process, okay, why should we expedite political cases? That is, there's an election case. We prioritize election cases, but we don't try anybody for rigging elections. No, this is one of the countries I do. In fact, the only country I know in the world where a political case will go to court, and then the court will conclude that this person rigged the election, and there won't be any consequences. They will just say vacate the seat after wasting our resources, wasting our time, committing several electoral crimes. Nobody will try the person. I don't understand how it works. And when we say, okay, on borderline next, so that other agencies will conduct this trial, they are not interested because they are the people who will still rig the elections and break the electoral laws. Why am I saying this? Our political elites are so much in bed with corruption that most of them don't want to hear about stronger anti-corruption measures. And that is why we are not getting there. We are not really. In fact, I've seen corruption as a tool for preparing for the next election, because it is through corruption that they raise the money they use to buy votes, to compromise electoral officials, to do all kinds of wicked and terrible things to the national political experiment. So we have to really push them if we want to get anti-corruption laws, and then also get whistleblower laws that will work. We have to really, really push them. You may recall the famous Ikoyi whistleblower that caused pandemonium in Nigeria, where 43 million or thereabout was recovered, some pounds, and then some, and all of that. That the husband wrote the cash haul. It was rumored that the man was paid 421 million naira. When such things are publicized, you see Nigerians who actually resign from their jobs and begin to look for who to catch that stole our money. We need to make this a serious matter. But then, as it is now, in fact, it has almost died down. There was a time there was this excitement about whistleblowing. People were actually blowing, and we recovered some money. How much have we recovered lately? It's next to nothing. Who has blown in whistle lately? Nobody. In fact, it looks as if the Tinubu regime is not even interested in blowing any whistle, because it was under Buhari that everybody was almost a referee running all over the place looking for who to catch because of the incentive. Now it's not happening anymore. Of course, you know that there was also a disincentive because there was somebody who was harassed ostensibly for blowing on the wrong person or making a mistake in blowing the whistle. With that, an aspect we also need to manage, because this thing is done in confidence. So if I blow a whistle on you, Gessi, and they do their preliminary checks and they find out that Gessi didn't do anything, they need to verify, did I blow the whistle with malicious intent? And knowing fully what they're doing. If I didn't blow with malicious intent, they shouldn't also come after me. But you see, this is a country where you're asking us to blow whistles, and then you are also pursuing us sometimes for blowing whistles. All of these things should be probably covered if there's a legislation, so that people will actually know that they're not only safe, but there is not a booby trap that sometimes maybe you go and blow on the wrong guy, and then you get into trouble. You now become the victim of your whistleblowing. We need to clear this thing as well.
Mr. Larry, another issue with this whistleblowing policy is the repayment of the monies, right? So not the repayment of the monies now, the incentive. You're telling me that you'd give me 5% of the monies if I blow the whistle. some people have also complained of non-payment of those incentives to them as whistleblowers. I mean, that's another issue to look at, don't you think?
Of course, it's a major issue because if you give me incentive to blow the whistle and I blow the whistle and you recover the money, I don't think anybody should even have a conversation around paying the person. Because if you have recovered the money, you're supposed to pay the person from the money recovered. So what's the delay about? I hope corruption is not happening to the reward because somebody may take the reward and put the person's name there because there's no explanation for the fact that you've recovered the money and you have not paid the whistleblower. If you have recovered the money, you should pay the whistleblower. If the money is not recovered, it's a different ballgame. But if you have recovered the money, if the whistleblowing leads to recovery, naturally and necessarily, you should pay the whistleblower immediately. And you should pay it in such a way that you don't go and set the person up for the price. Because this needs to be done in confidence as much as possible. So it's an aspect that should also be part of the law. That is why we need a framework, a legal framework that is open. So even the whistleblower also understands fully the position of the law on whistleblowing. So before you go and carry the whistle and clean it off for blowing, you go and check, whether this is something you want to do. You get the template, you get the law that guides the whistleblowing process, all the way to the payment protection plans and possible maybe career shift if it becomes difficult to manage and all of that. So I think we have to understand that it's not only unfair, but it can be discouraging to the process of whistleblowing if somebody blows the whistle successfully, and then what happens is that ultimately you don't get to reward the person after you have collected the proceed of crime. That is actually terrible, because that in itself is corruption. Because it means that the people who are pushing the whistleblowers also need somebody to blow the whistle on them.
All right, we'll look at those preparing to blow the whistle. If you're considering it, the steps you should take before you go ahead and do that blowing of the whistle. But before we look at that, when it comes to reports from workplace whistleblowers, who are complaining about maybe retaliation in one way or the other, damage to their reputation and all that, why do we not yet have an agency, a government agency that is specifically dedicated to receiving and investigating reports from whistleblowers, lending them support, either legal advice to the whistleblowers, offering them protection, just giving them mental, because you also have to look at the mental aspect of this, for being victimized and tagged as a snitch, or as tagged as a rat, and then you now look at the blowback on your family. So there's a lot of mental aspect that we need to look at. We do not have a dedicated government agency for that. But before you answer that, we have phone calls and WhatsApp lines available. Phone lines and WhatsApp lines available. 0808-312-8618 is the number to call. 0808-312-8618. We're also live on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. We're live on YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja. All right, go ahead, Mr. Larry.
Well, I think we ought to understand clearly that it's difficult to be talking about the Rosaya panel and also having a lot more agencies. The truth is that a lot of things that we think should have people and offices, elaborate people and offices dedicated to these services, can be done by a few persons. What we need to do is to ensure that we have people who are trained, experts who, if you want to engage in whistleblowing and you don't know the way to go, these guys should be persons with integrity. They should also have even a publicity unit. What I mean is, we should get to that point where if we have the law, it can be domiciled in one of the, for instance, ICPC can manage the whistleblowing for Nigeria. That is, if they're serious enough to do that well. They have a department within ICPC. Maybe NIS. I would rather it should be domiciled in an anti-corruption institution that is actually passionate so the NIA can focus on their culture, because if we're talking about recovering stolen funds, it's about corruption, really. It's about stealing our money and recovering the money. But wherever we want to place that desk or that department, it's not something elaborate, really, because even if 1,000 persons decide to
Blow the
blow
whistle.
the whistle, it's not all of them that, I mean, once they get the guideline, and these guidelines can be published online, if they need to engage further, they can make an anonymous call, and then if they choose to make an anonymous call. But even if they say who they are, the people there should have enough integrity to protect their identity. So we just need to establish a system that works, that will guide people to blow the whistle, and even guide them to know the circumstances under which they can blow the whistle, and even know how to look out for fraudulent activities that qualify for whistleblowing. We seem to be focusing on cash. Oh, this person stole cash. No. If a person inflates a contract, you are aware that in your office there was a contract that was supposed to cost Nigeria $10 million, and at some point somebody jacked it up from $10 million to $60 million. That qualifies for whistleblowing, because once you go back and look at that contract document, you will see that the value of that contract should be $10 million. There are circumstances where people supply goods, and then they come around and submit the invoice again, and they are paid again, and then they submit it, they recycle the invoice, and they keep getting payment. These are things that qualify for whistleblowing. And not too many Nigerians know that these things happen, even in their own MDAs. So if people are trained, enlightened, they will know what to look out for. And what it means is that Nigerians who are not happy that we are losing money will become an army of whistleblowers. And those who are stealing the money will be on the other side. So the war will start. But the challenge I have is that if you go and start this war now, that is the war of whistleblowing versus those who are stealing the money, what will happen is that the referee may also be party to the yes, because a lot of people are just corrupt. That is the problem we have. But that doesn't mean we won't start or won't try. We have Nigerians who are still not corrupt, who are in fact incorruptible. I know, I'm not guessing. So we can try to find them. And then we also make it clear that if you work for this whistleblowing agency and you engage in any act of corruption, the penalty will be included in that law. It will be very stiff. It will be very, very stiff, because we are supposed to be stopping this, and then you are doing it. And that's what I've always recommended. If you work for EFCC and you are indicted in a crime of any sort, especially corruption, your sentence should be much higher. ICPC same, police same. If a judicial staff same, because these are guys who are supposed to sanitize the system for us. But when they go and begin to do crime, they can compromise the entire criminal justice system. That is why their own should be stiff. So if we have a whistleblowing policy, people who control that space should be warned. They should be well paid, though. They should be also made to understand that if you engage in helping anybody get away, or helping them track a whistleblower for a prize, that the sentence will just be horrendous, so that people will not think about it. But the question I keep going back to is, do we have the political will to do this and do it well? I doubt it. But if we really want it, and we keep talking about it, and we look at what other countries have done, like India and elsewhere, and then maybe we'll make progress. India was one of the most corrupt countries in the world. There was a time they were even doing all kinds of caricatures of corruption, even in their movies. I remember in those, almost every movie, you see a policeman in India turn and put his hand behind his back, and somebody puts money there. You are not showing that anymore. They have moved on. They fought corruption to a standstill. Doesn't mean that there's no corruption in India, no. But a situation where corruption is a national pastime is not the case anymore. India and Nigeria share a lot in terms of their historical trajectory. But they have been able to escape the things that are stopping Nigeria. They have dumped all of those, and it appears that they dumped them on Nigeria, because when they escaped the poverty capital of the world, they shifted it to Nigeria. Collected, they didn't give it to us. We just decided to collect it, which is terrible. The corruption we collected, all the bad things. Power issues, insufficiency in power supply, we collected. Almost every person we just collected. But they have moved on. They are talking of going to space, being industrial giants, being one of the IT powerhouses in the world. So we need to deal with corruption, because if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. In fact, it's already killing us, not will kill us. Corruption is already killing us. We're on the slab. It's just that we don't understand that we are dying.
All right. So far we've had different, whistleblower protection bills in different forms that have been pushed to the Senate. But the latest one that we had was the whistleblower protection bill in 2019. And despite receiving approval from the Senate, it did not evolve into any law. I don't know why there seems to be an issue within the Senate about a whistleblower policy. After all, they are legislators. They're the ones. That's where the bulk stops.
You should know the issue. How come you don't understand? So if you are the person that the whistleblower will be pursuing, are you likely to give the whistleblower a whistle? If you know within you that if you hand this person this whistle, that you may be the first victim, the natural instinct you should have is to whistle the whistle. That is why we have a difficulty in dealing with corruption, because a lot of the people who are supposed to help us fight corruption are corrupt. If you go and look at the first 11 of our politicians, they tell me how many of them that are not corrupt. Let's go to the Senate, go to the House of Reps, check the ministers. How many of them have indictments? How many of them have visited the FCC? How many of them are people complaining about their track record in the past? So we have a country that the political elites won't be in a hurry to give you the whistle, because they know that when you start blowing the whistle, they'll be the ones running. So they will do everything they can to avoid that whistleblowing bill seeing the light of day. However, if it gets to that point where they must do it, they will also make it watery. They will just put it there so that it will just be said that, oh, one of the achievements of this House, this Senate, is that we pass the whistleblowing bill. But if you look at the bill, you find out that his paper tiger doesn't have capacity to bite. So that is what we have to deal with as a people. That's what we have to deal with. We have to deal with going back to the root of what our problem is in Nigeria. If we don't get electoral reforms right, if we don't get to that point where Nigerians can choose the people who lead them, we are going to have a tough time of correcting many of these other issues we are discussing, because many of them still go back to either political will, the quality of leaders you have, and all of that. And the question you asked me is a very serious case study. I mean, you know that we need a whistleblowing legislative framework, and you have refused to make it possible. Why? Because when you give the whistleblower the whistle, the person will blow it on you. So you don't want to give him the whistle. That's what we're dealing with here.
All right. Finally, final words on this particular topic before we switch on to the sports bit.
One thing we must do as a nation is to stop making ourselves look unserious, look like we know what is dealing with us, but we don't want to deal with those things. Because this issue of having a legislative framework for managing whistleblowing is an obvious challenge. We must fix it. And for the EFCC boss to have said it publicly, I would have expected that even the executive can introduce an executive bill. Because if the president introduces a bill on this matter, they will take it seriously. They will just go ahead and deal with it. So now that the EFCC boss has made the call again, I think there's no better time to do it than now. And if we don't do it, the world will be laughing at us, because they know that we are corrupt and that we don't want to stop being corrupt. We are not even making serious attempts to stop the corruption. They know we are stealing from ourselves, but they will also now confirm that we don't want to stop the process of stealing from ourselves. And the politicians who are not thieves should put their feet down and say, this far and no further, that we have to lobby sure that this bill gets to see the light of day. Unfortunately, that may not be happening enough. But for me, the challenge should go to the presidency. There should be an executive bill seeking to have this framework, and a powerful one as that, so that anybody who has the information can bring it to the fore, so that we can pursue those who are actually making Nigeria bleed to death. And as we say these things, let Nigerians understand that they have to say their mind. You know, most of the time we don't talk, we just listen and say, oh, that's was nice. But you see, when you create the consciousness of talking, you find out that after some time, yeah, we can all join hands and pressurize the people who are misleading us to lead us right. One of the things that we say when we gather is that a closed mouth is a closed destiny. It's not only in church. A closed mouth everywhere is a closed destiny. Nigerians should start talking. So once they say the phone lines are open, you call, you express your disappointment. But if you're happy with the way things are going, you say so too. I think we need to understand that we cannot close our mouth when things are going bad. We must say something. So on that note, I want to encourage us not only to listen to the voice of the people, but to become also the voice of the people. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Larry, for your time this morning. Do you have yourself a wonderful day?
And you too.
All right, over to Nonso Arinzechi. We have Cristiano Ronaldo, who will be named tomorrow in Monaco as UEFA Champions League's all-time top scorer. Looking at his impressive record, 140 goals across 183 appearances. Amazing, amazing, amazing. What's your take on this?
Come on, you can't argue with greatness. The guy is how old? 39 years of age. And I'm listening to him some few days ago. He says he doesn't know when he's going to retire. Whether it is 2 years, 3 years. When he was in his early 30s, he had the body of an 18-year-old after he was examined. I think one thing that works for me is his passion. The man wants to score goals. He wants to win title. Who would have believed the 39-year-old would be crying after losing a final? This is a man who has won it, seen it all, done it all. Played in the best leagues in the world. Won the best trophies in the world. But still cries at losing the Saudi Cup. This tells you he wants more. So kudos to him. It will take an absolute, maybe a century, maybe I'm over-exaggerating, for another player to break the record, because for you to do that, it means you need to score at least 15 goals for the next 10 years. How many players can do that?
I know Messi fans will be yimmering at this right now. I don't know what is wrong with them.
Unfortunately, he's not playing in Europe. He's playing in the MLS. And if he was playing in Europe, I feel he would have been the player who could have broken the record. But unfortunately, age is not on his side as well. He's 37. They're in the same, like I said, the world will never have this kind of two again. Like I said on the show, was it 2 days ago, and I said they make each other better, The reason there was a Messi is why Ronaldo is what he is. The reason there's Ronaldo, that's why Messi is what he is. In other eras, you had Ronaldo alone. You had Zidane alone. Players having their own eras.
Competing with each other.
But the competition here is, when Messi hits 30 goals a season and Ronaldo hits 35, but this is a challenge. He wants to go 40. So I think they gave us what we wanted. It was
very entertaining, especially for football lovers.
Exactly.
Okay, we have Ronaldo hinting at a surprise retirement. He's ruling out a coaching future for himself as well.
Yeah, he doesn't see himself as a coach, and I understand why. I think it's the fact that he's a bit hyperactive. It makes him difficult for him to become a coach. He could be very pragmatic. As a coach, you need to be leaned back sometimes. This is football, anything can happen. We saw what happened he was in the 2016
He's too much of a hothead.
Exactly. He was injured, and you could see him, practically he thought he would, if you watch from the sideline, you think he was the manager. And it was a bento. He was screaming, shouting. As a coach, sometimes you need to be leaned back. Behave like a certain Alex Ferguson, like, oh, if we lose the game, come on, life goes on. If not, he could get it. It is what it is.
Cristiano cannot, he can't stand for that. Somebody else was crying.
At 39.
And he's just a player. Now imagine him as a coach.
Most of the players that playing with him have retired. Some are already managing. He's played with other managers who are less younger than he is. And the guy still wants to win, Anyway, for a man who has won everything, he's won in and out of the pitch, As I speak to you right now, there are some social media handles he can't own. Because he has more fans than the followers of those social media handles. Of the social media, the app itself.
The network
exactly.
itself.
So this guy practically just did a trick. Opened YouTube at the weekend, and in an hour he had over 1 million followers. So the guy is in a world of his own. So I think it's for him, and still have this kind of passion to want to keep winning. Wow,
amazing!
I wish I had a little of what he had. I'll just lean back.
I mean, we definitely have to watch for the retirement and
but I don't think he retired anytime soon.
You think he's too much?
Yeah,
he's too much of a football lover.
Yeah, he loves the game too much. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. He could hit the 41 years mark, I think.
Really? Will his body allow him to do that?
He looks like he wants to play 2 or 3 more years. He's not getting he's not slowing down any time.
When it comes to sports, we know that retirement ages are usually younger than every other when you're looking at other sports. But Cristiano Ronaldo at 40
And to think he started playing at a young age. You know, there's some people who play start very young and retire so quickly.
Yes.
Because their body will tell you their body can't take it. Like a certain was Sheldon retired some few days ago and it was like, oh, I'm retiring, my body can't take it, but my mind can't take it anymore. He's barely 34. And for goalkeepers, they'll tell you their lifespan begins at 30. You know? So the guy, his mentality is sickening,
it's
man.
crazy.
It's absolutely
crazy.
Man, I don't know.
All right.
Stuff.
We have here in Nigeria, Godwin Obaseki showering 100 million naira on the Edo Queens.
Yeah.
Did they do that well?
Oh, yes. I think right now, I feel like I just want to play football. And I think the right club to play for that is Edo Queens. These girls won the NWFL. They were showered with a hoop, almost 100 million naira. And then now they went to the WAFU big tournament. They won the tournament as well. Another 100 million naira. I'm not asking in my head, what would these girls be given if they win the CAF Women's Champions League? Knowing fully well that no team in Nigeria has ever won that. The best we finished was Delta Queens, where they finished third. You know, so I'm very confident. I think I'm a big fan of Moses Adigu, the coach of the team.
Okay.
Yesterday they had a tour around the ancient city of Benin City. They went around with the fans. You know, the way this trophy celebration. Had a dinner with the Governor Obaseki and his wife, Betsy Obaseki, 100 million naira. What next for these girls? But anyway, I'm loving the fact that women football is getting the support that it's getting because, as some people say, it's not the most lucrative of football. You know, the men football has got everything, the followership, they've got the money, the sponsorship. But to see the governor also give so much attention to the female football in the state is a lot to be applauded.
Congratulations to them. All right. Any other more sports stories we should be looking at?
Absolutely. The Super Eagles coach was announced yesterday. We talked about that. A certain Bruno Labbadia, the 58-year-old from German, the fifth German Nigerian coach, and the 37th in the history. Fast forward 24 hours later, the list, I don't know how he did that, has been released for the game against Benin Republic in the Garden Gospel Babio Stadium, the Nest of Champion in Uyo, and of course the game that will take place in the Amahoro Stadium in Kigali, Rwanda. 23-man list has been released, and these are the players: Stanley Wabali, of course, Maduka Okoye, Amas Obazaye, you have William Trust Ekong, Bright Osei Samuel, Olisamda, Bruno Yemechi, Oluwa Shemilogo Ajayi, Calvin Basi, Oluwa Aino, in the midfield, Wilfred Ndidi, Rafael Onyedika, Yusuf Abdullahi, Al Hassan, Yusuf Abdullahi, Fisai Abdel Bashiru, Frank Onyeka, and a certain fine boy from Fulham, Alex Iwobi. In the attack, you have Samuel Chukwueze, Victor Osimhen, the outstanding Victor Osimhen. Hopefully he comes in the best of form. Kelechi Iheanacho, Victor Boniface, Moses Simon, Ademola Lookman, and a man called Taiwo Awoniyi. Yes, Rwanda have begun camping. They started camping on Tuesday, that was yesterday. 36-man list already. The German coach of Rwanda has started camping in Rwanda, preparing for Nigeria. And Nigeria will be starting the camping. Guess when? It will be on Monday next week when the players from Europe can assemble. Don't forget, only one player from the Nigerian Premier Football League, Amas Obazaye, and unfortunately is the third choice goalkeeper.
I don't even understand it. How are our chances looking up, especially with a new coach? This is someone who hasn't trained with these individuals.
One,
you haven't worked with them for years.
He doesn't even know some of these players.
You
He
have
has
no
never managed
relationship
the
with
international scene. He has never managed in the African scene. This man's best biggest achievement as a manager is finishing fourth and getting the Champions League place for Stuttgart. His only time he's managed is in Germany, in the German Bundesliga. He has no experience outside Germany. But voila, the NFL thinks this is the right man to tutor Nigeria.
I saw a
Great
headline
stuff.
yesterday. I'm trying to remember the adjective used to describe him. Tactician.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the word that was used to describe him yesterday. And I'm wondering, how would that come into play in this sport?
I think the way his style of play, because I've followed him for some time now, I think the style of play, the way he loves to play is the fact that he loves to play this counter-attacking kind of football, you know, very quick, swift, you know, and when the blessings is that our better days at the Super Eagles came when we had pacey wingers, the Tijani Babangidas, the Pius Ikedia, the Finidi George of this world. And also our best players right now are wingers, Samuel Chukwueze, Ademola Lookman, and maybe if I could throw in Simon Moses in that mix as well. So I think if he plays the counter-attacking football, we get to explore the pace of our strikers, then I think Nigeria's got a chance to get something from this game. Don't forget, I must remind you that the man didn't want to take charge of this team because he felt it was too early. He said, okay, let somebody else do that. I'll come after the qualifiers. And he was practically begged by the NFF to take up this job, and he has decided to take up the friendly game. He said, don't worry about the result. Just find a way around it. I mean, this is my worry. a coach who hasn't managed his team before will now be using a Nations Cup qualifier
Exactly.
to begin to experiment.
That's my
and begin
concern. No, so looking at it like this, you have again Oro on the other side
Yeah.
who understands Nigerian
Yeah,
football.
absolutely.
He's
He
spent
practically
a
gave most
couple
of
of
these
times.
players their debut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the future looking like against Benin Republic in Uyo?
I feel like singing, one day at a time, but I'll keep that to myself. And I'll hope and I'll pray that the boys will turn up on it. Anyway, we know this new coach syndrome. When a new coach comes into a team, everybody's firing and hustling. That, I want to impress. Maybe that could just be our leeway of getting something from that result. I just think if Nigeria will be playing at the Nations Cup in Morocco come next year, we would have to get 4 points from these two games. Don't forget, Benin Republic beat us in Abidjan, 2-1 at the World Cup qualifier in our group. Rwanda also are one of the teams who have worried us a lot in history. So I just want to believe that the quality of our players on the day will shine. After all, we're playing first of all in Uyo. Maybe a win there will give us what we need to take to
Kigali.
Exactly. But I'm still worried. If you ask me, really worried, I must tell you. In the MPFL, we hear that Nasarawa United, who disbanded their board, have officially announced their new board for the new season. This is coming barely 3 days to the start of the new season. They'll begin on this is why I love government-owned club. You can hire and fire anytime you like. A change of government means a change of board. But anyway, this is the new board. You have Solomon Bambaja as chairman, Musa Adamu as team manager, Usman Umar member, Musa Umar, Usman member, Amos H as head of media, and T.Y. Abubakar Abduma will be the camp commandant for Nasarawa United. That's the new board, I must tell you. And Sunshine Stars as well have unveiled their players for the new season. And these are the players that will play for a certain Benga Ogumbote. He's known as the Oracle, yes, in the Nigerian Premier Football League by his time, where he did wonderfully well and got Sunshine Stars to the continent. So these are the players that have been unveiled. You have Abiodun Akonde from Rivers United. Also, Abdebaya Bayomi from Remo Stars, Desmond from Eyimba, Ikweme Utim, who returns from Tunisia, joins up with the team, Bolaji Sakim, Mustafa Lawal, Abaka Liyu, and Samuel Oyorinde. Their first game will be traveling to Lafia to take on Nasarawa United in their first game of the MPFL season. That I confirm to you. Eyima Yangwa, we hear the captain of Rivers United. Again, the exodus in the MPFL continues, guys. He has left the shores of Nigeria. And guess where? Not in Saudi Arabia's first division, but the second division of Saudi Arabia. That is where we play this football come next season. This is the captain of a team, one of the best teams in the MPFL. He joins up a team called Al-Saad Club in the Saudi second division. That's where we play this football come next season. Now, let us run. Where are we heading to Europe? Quickly, I'll do this one quickly. We hear that Palace are closing in on a deal of signing Arsenal striker Eddie Nketiah. That's what we're hearing. We hear the deal is going to be worth £30 million. And he'll be leaving Arsenal, who I think, to my opinion, is surplus requirement. Man United have agreed for the £2 million deal to sign Manuel Ugarte. Yes, we hear the deal will be what included 10 million euros add-ons, and the man will be joining in. A certain Scott McTominay will be flying out of Manchester United. He'll be going to Napoli for £25.3 million in the Italian Serie A. Also, still talking, Brighton have signed a defender from Fenerbahce, Kadioglu, Fedi, for £25 million. We hear he signed a 4-year deal. He becomes the 8th signing of Brighton this season. Bournemouth also are set to sign Chelsea's goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga. Yes, on loan. We hear that Mark Travers will also leaving the club before the end of the transfer window. Still talking, Cancelo, he has left Man City. He's moved on to Saudi club Al Hilal. That deal was worth a total of £21.2 million. That I confirm to you. Omo, we'll come to that very soon. But Arsenal have signed a certain Mikel Moreno. Yes, he signed a 4-year deal with an option for an additional 12 months. The deal is worth £31.6 million, and the guy is 28 years of age. He just signed, he just won the Euros 2024 with the Spanish national team. For Chelsea, one man yesterday said he loves Man United. Is it because of the worries and the troubles he's having at Chelsea? His name is Ryan Sterling. But right now we can confirm to you that Man United have held exploratory talks for a deal to sign Ryan Sterling, who the coach of Chelsea, Enzo Maresca, has said he is surplus to requirements. Now this guy has gone to clubs like Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and now he's saying he loves Man United. Where is the loyalty for footballers? I don't know. You tell me. Okay, guys, to football, Dani Olmo has scored in his first game for Barcelona as they beat Rayo Vallecano by 2-1. But for a certain Kelechi Iheanacho and Chidera Ejuke, who plays for Sevilla, they fired blank as they could only manage a goalless draw in their fixture in the Spanish La Liga game that went down yesterday. Okay, good win for Bota and Rapa in the US Open. They are through to the second round as well. Also, great win for Iga Swiatek is through to the second round as well. So far, so good. No casualties. The only casualties from the US Open is a certain Dominic Thiem. Yes, Dominic Thiem. Fortunately, it wasn't to be for him. He was dumped out in the second round. Officially, that's the end of his Grand Slam career. He's going to be retired at the end of this year. But no more Grand Slam. But he'll play on until the end of the calendar year, talking about 2024. Don't forget, Coco Gauff is still in that game, and a certain Iga Swiatek, and of course, Arena Sabalenka. Games will continue today. We'll talk more about that in the Champions League, in the EFL Cup as well, and of course, Spanish La Liga games continue today. 4 games will be in the offering letter today. So, guys, this is how much I can take on sports for today, guys. But come on, we keep on. Come on, the countdown continues for September 7th. Gospel Abio Stadium, next of champion Nigeria versus Benin Republic. The battle of 2 German coach Bruno Labbadia and Gernot Rohr. Can Labbadia start his regime on a winning note? TikTok, the count starts now.
All right, so watch and see how that plays out. Don't forget, at 5 o'clock is where the Sports Lounge is at. You want to stick around for that. Of course, we are going to get music down till 11 o'clock. Make sure you keep it locked on Voice of the People 96.1 FM. My name is Gesere.